The deep sea is huge, dark, almost freezing cold, and full of giants. And as we start to make our way down through the ocean depths, the first thing we pass through is the epipelagic zone. Here's where almost all the life in the ocean exists because of the sun's penetrating energy. Colorful and abundant animals glide effortlessly through here. The next stop would be the mesopelagic zone, or the ocean twilight zone. Here, light becomes very dim, and photosynthesis becomes impossible. Below 1,000 meters, all sunlight disappears and we enter into the midnight zone or the bathopelagic zone. The only light that can be seen down here is the glowing bioluminescence from skin of squids or the lures of anglerfish. The pressure here is immense, temperatures shockingly low, but the ocean goes deeper still. The abyssopelagic zone reaches as deep as up to 6,000 meters with pressure 600 times that of our terrestrial world. The abyssal realm is thus considered the largest single ecosystem supporting life on Earth and covers an area of 300 million square km, about 60% of the surface of the globe. But the depth doesn't end here. The hadopelagic zone is the deepest part of the ocean. It exists from a depth of approximately 6,000 to 11,000 meters and is found in long, narrow topographic V-shaped trenches. The deepest of these ever discovered was the Mariana Trench. And in spite of all reasons, life at these darkest depths prevails, and the critters here have evolved to be exceedingly freaky, from ghostly to terrifying to absolutely gigantic. Giant Japanese spider crab, big red jellyfish, king of herrings oarfish, the giant squid, Greenland shark, and giant isopods. All these animals are the examples of deep-sea gigantism, the tendency that deep-sea animals have to be substantially larger than their shallow water counterparts. In waters intensely cold and dark, why do these leviathans emerge? An eerie coincidence of the deep dark sea, or feature of life in this inhospitable landscape. Food in the ocean becomes quite scarce well below 400 meters. As the sunlight tapers off, photosynthetic algae and plankton disappear too. And without this crucial part of the food chain, life becomes markedly more difficult for deep-sea animals. Most of them instead have to rely on detritus that rains down from shallower waters, a phenomenon called marine snow. Marine snow is mainly composed of dead plankton, fecal pellets, and bits of rotting corpses that fall to the seafloor as fine particles. Some animals rely directly, and completely, on marine snow. For example, the vampire squid has special adaptations to better catch and eat the falling particles. Two long filaments extend from their bodies to capture any drifts past them in their habitat 900 meters deep. Marine snow is basically the backbone for all life in the deep, but it can't support a great deal of biomass. The number of creatures in the deep is sparse, and the food web is strained. Most animals do not feed on marine snow directly, but rather by predating on those that do, and hence, predation pressure is immensely high. Any small fish, crustacean, or cephalopod carries a big target on its back from any bigger predator. And due to this fact, it became an evolutionarily advantageous position for animals to get rid of the target off their back to transition from being a prey animal into a top predator. Enter the giant squid icon, an enigma of the deep. By the turn of the 21st century, the giant squid remained one of the few extant megafauna to have never been photographed alive. What we know about the giant squid largely comes from specimens that have washed ashore. It wasn't until 2004 that the first photographs of a live giant squid in its natural habitat were taken in the twilight zone at about 1,000 meters depth. Whereas we have very little information about these mystic creatures, we do realize that they are enormous. The longest individual ever recorded was 13 meters in length, the length of a school bus, and weighing 275 kilograms. Compared to the majority of squids, that have no more than 60 centimeters in length, those giants are truly exceptional. With such a tremendous size, they are left with few predators and allows them to comfortably prey on deep-sea fish and other squid species, which they grab with their two extremely long tentacles. But as impressive the giant squid may be, it is not considered to be the largest of the deep-sea squids. The colossal squid, also sometimes referred to as the Antarctic squid, is the largest invertebrate in the world. They are only 10 meters in length, whereas the giant squid is longer but can weigh between 500 kilograms and 700 kilograms, lurking in over 2,000 meters of water. It is easy to get carried away with such a huge creature as an aggressive top predator darting through the water, snatching prey and dominating its adversaries, ripping sailboats apart, etc. However, this squid teaches us something else about deep-sea giants. They aren't necessarily the dominating predatory force we imagine. Because with their big size, comes something else: super slow metabolism. Colossal squid really takes something called Kleiber's law to the next level. Kleiber's law says that metabolism doesn't scale linearly with body size as you might predict. A person weighing 100 kgs doesn't burn twice as many calories as a person weighing 50 kgs. A horse weighing 1,000 times more than a mouse doesn't need 1,000 times more energy. Instead of metabolism scaling linearly with body size, it scales with an animal's mass to the 3/4 power. It applies throughout life on Earth, from blue whales, right down to individual cells. This is in itself, for the most part, a result of the physics and geometry of animal circulatory systems, an animal's surface area to volume, and fractal nature of blood vessels. And all this means that the larger an animal is, the more efficient it is. The colossal squid seem phenomenally well efficient. One study estimated their metabolic rate at so low, they only burn 45 calories per day, and only require 0.03 kilograms of food per day. A single adult toothfish would be enough food for a 500 kilograms colossal squid for approximately 200 days. Their energy needs are 300-fold to 600-fold lower than those of other top predators of comparable size in the Southern Ocean. This argues for a very slow life rate for the colossal squid. It does not pursue its prey in some sort of adrenaline bank, hyperbolic battles as one would imagine. It just sits and waits for prey to rise upwards and incidentally wander by, and then uses the hooks on its arms and tentacles to snag them. This opportunistic lifestyle also makes sense because in water so deep visual predation would be almost impossible due to extremely limited visibility. The colossal squid has the largest eyes of any animal in the world, up to 30 centimeters wide. However, scientists believe these eyes are not for catching prey, but for detecting and avoiding predators. Not many creatures could hunt a squid so large, but a select few can, most notably sperm whales. Food scarcity and predator avoidance are some of the major pressures for deep-sea animals to grow so large and have such slow metabolisms. But they are not the only pressures. The deep, cold water itself forces such gigantism to occur. Bergmann's rule states that animals found in cold environments will be larger than those found in warm environments. This rule, however, has historically only been found to be definitively true for endotherms. Warm-blooded animals are birds and mammals. Does the same trend hold for ectotherms, the squids, crabs and isopods of the deep? It's surprisingly a rather contentious area of science. But certainly some ectotherm species do grow larger at colder temperatures. This can definitely be observed at the polar extremes of this world, where marine sponges, worms, and even single-celled organisms get enormous. The most popular theory for this is that colder water holds more oxygen, and such large body sizes can crop up for aquatic animals, whereas, deep and polar, there is one of the strangest giants of them all. The Greenland shark is the largest fish in the Arctic Ocean and amongst the largest sharks on Earth, 7 meters in length, weighing as much as 1,400 kilograms. It dwells in waters above 2,000 meters deep, in temperatures between 2 and 7 degrees Celsius. It's the only shark capable of bearing the coldness of Arctic water throughout the year. This extreme, cold ambient has caused this shark not to be simply huge but ancient. Greenland sharks represent the longest living vertebrates on our planet, so old that there are most likely individuals swimming in the ocean that were alive before Christopher Columbus voyaged to the Americas. Before Michelangelo painted the Sistine Chapel, while the Aztec and Incan empires were still thriving, scientists estimate their average lifespan to be at least 272 years, with some individuals living perhaps well over 500 years. Inside the shark's eyes, there are proteins that form before birth that are then covered by many layers of the lens of the eye. These proteins do not degrade over time, so by carbon dating them, scientists can estimate the age of the shark. One 5-meter female was estimated to be between 272 and 512 years old. These sharks don't even reach reproductive age until around 150 years old. Their extremely long life is due in large part to their extremely low metabolism, similar to the colossal squid. And just like the colossal squid, they're very slow and opportunistic feeders. Apart from scavenging any carcass they can, they consume some fish and squid. Their stomach contents have even included polar bears, horses, and reindeer. Like the giant squids, it would be just too hard for them, too, to find and pursue prey in the pitch-black waters. Even if the water wasn't as dark, the sharks still couldn't see because there is this specific crustacean that keeps on hanging on to their eyeballs and destroying them to complete blindness. The idea of drifting along in 2-degree, pitch-black water for 500 years, with crustaceans attached to your eyeballs, gives me heebie-jeebies of the highest order. The animals we've talked about to date are without a doubt weird, amazing and even creepy. But we've only gone as far as down as the Meso and Bathypelagic zones 200 to 4,000 meters down. The ocean goes deeper still, and reveals one of the most extreme examples of deep sea ever seen. Above the Haddle Trenches, from 6,000 to 11,000 meters in depth, temperatures range between 1 degree Celsius and 4 degrees Celsius. Dark, and the pressure up to 1,100 times that of the surface. Here, the marine snow feeding most of the deep hardly reaches the floor. 0.90% never makes it further than the twilight zone. At such depths, it's as if life could not even be conceived. But instead, the deeper you go, the more you will encounter colossal amphipods crawling along the bottom. Shallow water amphipods are usually in the range of 5 mm to 20 mm in length, but these deep water behemoths can grow up to 34 centimeters long. Something that's usually the size of a gnat, at these depths, is the size of a guinea pig. Alicella gigantea is generally accepted as the supergiant amphipod, and is the largest amphipod ever discovered. Their gigantism approaches the giant isopods that attain 50 centimeters long. Their roly-poly cousins you might find in your garden are a mere 6 mm long. These amphipods and isopods are scavengers and detrivores, consuming any decomposing material they can find, and their large body size may help them store as much food and energy as possible when they can find it. Accordingly, when giant isopods find a substantial source of food, they gorge to the point of compromising their locomotive ability. In this manner, they can survive very long periods of famine. Giant isopods have gone without food for over 5 years in captivity. Their large body size also affords them to travel greater distances in search of their next meal. Another reason for their huge body size might be related to the viscosity of water at such depths and cold temperatures. Down here, water would be perceived thicker than water at the surface. A larger body size may give these deep-sea invertebrates a respiratory advantage to help to overcome the larger viscous forces in water. Even given all of this, it is just difficult to understand how there could be enough food at these depths to support these giants. But, more recently, scientists found that some of these creatures may be feeding on an entirely unexpected food source. One Haddle amphipod, Hirondelia gigas, was found to have this weird cellulase enzyme, one that seemed like its purpose was to break down plant matter. This is weird because, literally, zero plant life can live in the Haddle depths, and for this enzyme to break down bits of algae as marine snow,